This program is brought to you by Amico Flooring of Fitchburg, Mass. Amico Flooring. Let us floor you.
Welcome to another episode of An Inside Job, War on Addiction. I want to thank LTV and the gang, which they really back us up down here, I'll tell you. I got to go back here and here. I want to thank LTV, Kyle, Jack, Janie, Alan, Bradley. I'm your host, Ron. And like I said, they really back us up down there. This will be episode number 22, and I'm happy about that. But if I would have got the bad vibes and whatever else, I wouldn't have kept it up. And they even inspire me because there's so much into this thing, and so they're certainly doing their part. I want to quote, as I did in the last one and every one, Dr. Gabor Mate. In his book, The Realm of the Hungry Ghost, he explains addiction: biological, chemical, neurological, physiological, medical, social, emotional, political, economical, and spiritual. As complicated as he explains, I believe that we are not addressing this as that whole with all these problems. You know, heroin addict coming up, and it's been a heroin addict for most of their life, which could be very, and they could be very young, but maybe growing up in it. And everything is so screwed up. You know, I believe it in long-term care. That's what I believe. That's what worked for me. 2.25 years behind in one form or another recovery. So I want to welcome back Jackie. And
Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. We did a half hour, before this, show 21, and now we're doing 22. And as Kyle said, a half hour goes by so quick. So this has been working good. And we're on YouTube. I don't have it written down how to get on it, but YouTube, I'm not going to take the time, but you can get it at LATV also, get the schedule. Okay, we just did the other part, and we talked during the break. So you had 2 detoxes. The second one took hold. Why do you think?
So the second time I remember coming in and having an idea that like I didn't know what I was doing.
You
right?
understood that.
I knew that. Like there was something that like, you know, at that moment, like I knew that I was gonna die. And if I kept going my way, you know, I was going to die. So I needed to hold on to something other than myself.
Yeah.
You know? And so the second time I went back to that same uncle.
Same place.
Right? That same uncle.
Oh, the uncle.
Mm-hmm. He sectioned me again.
Okay.
And this
by
time
this
I just
time
went.
he had your child? By this time?
He had my son. He had my son. And, you know, I always say I like went into that courthouse this time, like willing, right? I had like a a bag with me that had like matching clothes and like outfits to go, and you know, like I welcomed the shackles and the paddy wagon, and I knew that like I needed to be there. Like
Yeah.
I knew detox and everything that was gonna be my way out of it this
Yeah.
time. You know, and they sent me that time to WATSE, the Women Addiction Treatment Center in New Bedford, and they sent me there, and it just from that moment, being in that facility and being there, that there was a change, there was a shift in my thinking, my attitude. Not right away, obviously. It was very slow. But I knew that like I was no longer the driver, you know. I knew that I couldn't be, because if I did it my way, I was gonna die,
Yeah.
you know. And I just started to do a couple things different, right? I wrote a long letter to my ex-boyfriend, breaking up with him, and like I cried, and I didn't send it out for like a week. I stopped talking to my mother and like some other, you know, family friends that like I was involved with that were still in active addiction, and I knew that like I couldn't depend on them anymore, because even though they might have had my back and like went around, you know, along for the ride with me, that it was gonna be, it was gonna hinder me, you know.
Right.
So I let a lot of that go,
To leave.
and you know, thank God I had like the support of my son's stepmother.
Okay.
Yeah, my son's stepmother, who like, you know, when I came out to Worcester, she came out, had a family visit with me, and she was real
Nice.
supportive. And, you know, like my uncle and my grandmother. And I just really had like a small group this time, but it was exactly what I needed, right? I needed to do this on my own. I came out to Worcester from the South Shore, and I needed change, like real change.
How long did you stay in the program?
So I was in WATSE for 2 weeks.
Okay.
I came out to Worcester to a TSS for a week. You know, when I was in WATSE, I put in a couple applications for halfway houses.
What's WATSE?
WATSE is a women addiction treatment center.
And that's where you went before?
The first time, no. I did a detox. I went to High Point in Brockton
Oh,
the first
okay.
time. So this was like a whole new thing. This is where, you know, when you get sectioned, they send you there. Like before, they used to send you to jail or, you know, depending on where. But for the most part, this is where they'll send you now. So I went there.
Detoxing or...
Detox, and, you know, went into the CSS, and then I went into a TSS. I did a halfway house, a couple applications in WATSE. From there, you know, they said, oh, this is, you know, I went to Beryl's house, which is in Worcester, and
How many? All women?
all women.
And that's
all
how
women.
it kind of has to
And
be.
so they take, you know, first come, first serve, but it's like they take sections first. So I was sectioned in WATSE, and I put in an application, and I just had to wait for a bed. So I came out to Worcester, and I was in a TSS. I was in CHL.
What is that?
It's a holding.
Okay.
It's a holding.
But
so
at least it was safe.
it was
It
safe.
was a safe place.
Exactly. It was safe. It's still, you know, focuses on your addiction and your treatment.
Yeah.
You know, and it's that little waiting point there, right? That
How long did that take?
it only actually it took me a week to get into this halfway house. There was like a shift in the house, right? Where, you know, now I believe it was like, you know, God's way of it. It just happened, right? It's just a shift in the house where 8 women, unfortunately, were kicked out for one reason or another.
Again, how many did you say were in there?
That house holds 25.
It's a lot of people.
Yeah. So there was a big shift in that house, and it allowed me to make room for me. Thank God.
Were you fighting it?
I don't think so. I really just, I mean, I wasn't super excited, right? To
Right.
go to a halfway house and be away so far away and be with 20-something other women that I didn't know.
In recovery. Hopefully.
You know, trying for it. I didn't really still understand what recovery was.
Yeah.
So I wasn't like, you know, getting on the saddle and excited,
Right.
but I knew that like it was a chance for change. You know.
2 in a room?
Yes. Yeah. In this one. Yeah.
How
this
about
house.
now they just kicked out 8 or they left, but was there still using in there or things were pretty,
When I got to the house, it seemed like everything had kind of like
okay,
died down for a little
Yeah.
bit, you know, and then a few women, you know, then another group of women came in. And like, fortunately, I am actually friends with a few of those women from that time, you know.
yeah.
So it just really was a starting point, you know, there.
I know Kenny, your boyfriend, and Joshua came out of that thing, and
That happens, yeah.
is it Mike? That's kind of the dynamic trio, but they
Yeah.
stayed tight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's
And
a few,
to this
you
day,
know? I mean,
yeah.
it's rare, I feel like, because you know, everyone's taken different journeys, and you know, some aren't staying sober or clean the whole time. So when you make those friendships, because that wasn't my plan, right? When I went into a halfway house, I just wanted to get my shit together.
Yeah.
You know, I just wanted to get, you know, my life back. How do I not drink? How do I not use? How do I become like a normal member of society? Because I needed the job back, I needed the apartment, and I wanted my son back. Like I wanted to be normal. How do I, you know, wake up, shower, make my bed, eat breakfast,
Right.
lunch, dinner, without using.
Parent. How to be a
Without
parent.
using.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't know how to do any of those things. I mean, I went
Pressure.
to the movie theaters and I had to drink.
Yeah.
You know, I went
Right.
to my son's dance and I had to drink. So how do I not do those things?
Right. Right.
You know.
And that's another big thing of this,
Yeah.
you know. And can that person stay around enough to understand that you can do that, but it's not happening
It doesn't
in a
happen
couple
over.
of months.
It doesn't, and,
No.
and that's what I thought, right? They say, 6 months for a halfway house,
Yeah.
and then go to they stress to go to further treatment, right? So you're like thinking, okay, like 6 months, I can get it, right? It took me only 15 years to lose everything, but I'm gonna get everything back in 6
Right.
months.
And
like that's just
such
it's
you hear it
insanity.
over
It's
and
insanity.
over. Even
think that.
And even if, like, you know, I said 2.25 years
Mm-hmm.
for me, and to even, let's say you back then, all right, and to hear everybody saying, it's not enough, or your sponsor saying, it's not enough.
It's not
And
enough.
just
And
hearing-
like I try to stress now is that time, it heals. Like I said, 6 months in a halfway house, right? And that was just the tip of it for me.
Explain the difference between a halfway house and a sober house.
In a sober house, okay, so a halfway house is going to be structured. It's going to
Right.
have staff. For me, at least that was my experience. So
Meetings.
making sure you have sponsorship, making sure you get a network, right? Making sure that, like, you know, they limited time for us, right? So our visits were 4 hours on Saturday, 3 hours on Sunday. Everything was structured, at least the halfway house that I was in, right? And then the sober house, I got lucky enough to go into a sober house that still had some structure, right? So I had a curfew of 10
but
p.m.
not as much.
The first 30 days, I couldn't go, you know, sleep out or anything. And then when the weekends came, I had to ask for permission, right? So
Right.
you're a 30-year-old asking for permission to go out
I
on
was
the weekend,
34.
right?
What are you
Yeah,
shitting me? I
yeah,
have
like,
to come in
but
at
it's
11.
what I needed. it's
Right,
what I needed.
right.
You know, there are some sober houses that aren't going to have that structure, but I see a lot now that they're trying to implement the structure because that's what we need, because we don't know how to manage. you
Even
know?
in the sober houses,
Yeah.
they're bringing in more
Bringing
structure.
in structure, mandated meetings, right? 10 o'clock curfews, weekends 12 o'clock. You know, and I really think that that's what's needed, because you let us run loose and we forget, right, where we come from, and that's
Back into the
there
guy
you go.
walking in
it's
the bar.
so easy. Yeah, exactly. The guy, oh, an
Yeah.
afternoon shot, okay.
Yeah. Right. And to
Like-
be with sober people.
Yeah,
To be
absolutely,
with sober
absolutely.
people. Was it tough coming up here with
Yeah.
meeting new people in recovery?
Yeah, I didn't
or-
want to meet anyone new,
Right,
you know, and then
right.
there's a specific time, you know, in the halfway house was like 4 months there, and you know, my attitude didn't really change. Like I still was like standoffish and still like I didn't come to make friends. But like what happened was that was gonna get me in trouble, right? It was gonna send
Yeah.
me right out the door. And I had this moment of clarity where like I had to switch my attitude and my behavior because it no longer served me, right? And like I remember like sitting up on the second floor and you know, slowly coming outside of my room and sitting with the girls in the
Yeah.
living room
Yeah.
and just them looking at me like, are you okay? You know, and just kind of like change, and just slowly, just by like coming out of the room, right? And just like, you know, not having the resting like bitch face, and like trying to change my behaviors,
Yeah.
because that's what sends me out. That's what gets me high.
Right.
You know, it's
Right.
the mental obsession, the
Yeah.
attitude, the behaviors, and how do I change that? Like I have to do the opposite.
So 6 months and a little more by this time.
Mm-hmm.
And did they only do 6 months at the halfway house?
I mean, you know, it's varied, right? It's a personal basis. For me, I needed the 6 months. You know, by 4-5 months, I was already job hunting, right?
Yeah.
I was already putting in applications for my sober houses, and you know, I got lucky by the grace of God, to end up finding a job in the career that I always had, right? And finding it fairly quickly, and I was able to get just a part-time job, right? They told me,
Yeah.
just get a get well job, just do part-time, because
Get
I
well
want to work.
job. I
I want to
never
work
heard that.
80 hours a week.
Of course.
You know what I mean? Like
Again, I want to make.
I need to get
Yeah,
things back,
I've been wasting my time.
and I need to get things back. So you know, 20 hours a week, and taking my time, right? And I, you know, was fortunate enough to get into a sober house at my 6-month mark. So
At this time, did you have a sponsor?
I did.
In,
I had a sponsor. I
what,
had a sponsor.
What do you attend?
and-
AA, NA?
I do AA.
Yeah.
I do AA
Yeah.
for me.
Me
yeah,
too.
that's my solution.
Yeah.
You know, and thank God, you know, because like you know, the first time when I was in that halfway house, the first time they gave me a big book, and when I left it with my roommate. I was like, here, you need this.
Yeah.
And because I didn't know there was instructions in it. I didn't
Right.
know that was going to give me a way to live in a way out. I had no clue.
Do you agree with this? Us as addicts, we don't want to hear it from anybody.
of course
you
not.
know, don't, especially halfway house. Don't tell me
God.
what to do.
Oh God. Yeah.
I've been doing it on my
Yeah.
own. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
it was the
A
other
lot
way.
of biting your tongue, right? Biting the tongue,
and
and
that
just
doesn't come easy.
and you know, it's where I learned how to pray, right? And learned how to like shut up.
Yeah.
And like I'm not a person that like keeps quiet, like, and I had to learn that, right? That like maybe you don't know,
Yeah.
maybe you have no clue, because I didn't. I still don't sometimes. Like I don't know, you know. It's just a day by day process for
Yeah.
me. What's gonna work today? Today, that is a solution that relieves me for a day, right? That's and it comes in different forms. Like
Yeah.
I said this morning, I was able to get up and meditate and do some yoga.
What do you think about meditation in your life? And I meditate, but also as a part of recovery?
So, what I thought of meditation, the thought of what it is just sitting there quiet, right? And everything like just shuts off automatically, and that's not the truth, right? So in the halfway house, we used to have to sit in the morning and do a reading and a meditation, and it was like, whatever, what is this? And at night we would come together, we would sit for a meditation, and like nobody could sit,
Really?
you know, like we're so squirrely anyways.
Yeah.
Nothing could sit, but like through like my years, I've, you know, and it's still, it's so hard to be able to just sit there for even 10 minutes and allow yourself, you know, time to just be there, be present. And there's no real guidelines for meditation, right? I mean, it's just allowing yourself to sit in that moment and just be right there.
Very difficult.
Very difficult, and it's a practice, and
it's practice.
and like with recovery, it's a lifestyle change. So I'm really just now trying to implement this new lifestyle change of meditation, of yoga, of something different. Just a
You
couple
like the
more
yoga?
tools in my bag. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in school right now for my teacher training
In that?
in yoga.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So.
I do Tai Chi, and that
Nice.
helps me a lot.
Okay. Yeah.
Trying to grab onto that energy.
Yeah.
It's all, in my opinion, it's all around us, and for me, that really works.
Yeah.
And so, how long have you been sober now?
I'll have 3 years, February 24th. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, very good. And what keeps you sober? We've talked a lot of how you got sober.
Got sober.
How long did you stay in the sober house?
Almost 2 years.
Wow. Congratulations.
Almost 2 years.
Congratulations.
And, you know, it really allowed me to find myself, like to get that, I talk about it now, like that foundation, that solid foundation.
Yeah.
That, you know, like I said, it took me, 17 years to come in with just a
Right.
suitcase.
Right.
So I needed a lot of time to build up some
Right.
things. And in that process, I got my license back. I got a car. I went back to school. I built a new relationship with my son.
How has that gone?
Good. I really good. You know, like I said, I'm present. Like I'm there at football games. I'm there when he's getting suspended from school.
Yeah, just like you.
Exactly. You know, I'm there when he's not having too hard of a week, and able to now, which took a lot of time to communicate between his father, his stepmother, and myself.
Yeah.
And that was a process in itself. A lot of prayer went into that because, you know, I always want to take my will back, right? And do things my way, but
Right.
that doesn't serve me.
No.
So I've been really, you know, building that relationship, the relationship with my mom, my grandmother, my nieces. I mean, it just goes on and on. Like, but it's because I've really gotten into a program, right, where I've done in the 12 steps. I haven't finished. I'm in the 12 steps. I have a sponsor. I work closely with women. I am growing my, like we said, meditation, my yoga practice, trying to grow that on a daily basis. Not always daily, but it's practice. And I really believe it's an entire lifestyle change. You know, I was used to the chaos and the drama and just the sickness. That's what I grew up with. That's what it was. It's embedded in me.
Yeah.
And how do I change that?
And it goes so deep.
You know, and it is, you know, and I have to change that with everything. And like, you know, it wasn't until, you know, I was like a year clean that my grandmother said, oh, it's so good to have Giovanni back. And I was like, to see him smile and just kind of be itself. And I'm like, what are you talking about? You know?
Giovanni, that's his name?
Yeah, my son.
Say hi.
Yeah, hi, baby. He wanted to stay home from school just to watch this. I'm like, yeah, no.
Tonight it'll be
Yeah.
on YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he'll
Yeah.
watch it tonight. But
Yeah.
yeah, he just, it took me that long to understand, like, I did some damage, some
course.
serious damage.
Of course.
You know?
I did too.
Yeah.
And it's not easy putting that to rest. It hasn't been easy for me, you know?
Yeah.
And if I go there, sometimes it's,
Yeah.
and it's been a process for me and a long process. So, all these things that we're talking about, the social, the
Yeah.
being a parent, the like somebody trying to learn how to walk again.
Everything.
Yeah.
Relearn everything.
Yeah.
How do I treat you? How do I allow you to treat me? My behaviors, my thought process, everything had to switch and change, and it was slow, and it's still happening.
Yeah.
And I still have to watch myself. Just a random thought, right? Driving down the street, see a guy go to the liquor, to the bar, and like, oh,
Yeah.
an afternoon shot sounds good. Like, just random. And I have to switch that, But now I have some tools that allow me to do
Right.
it quicker, so I don't see myself
Right.
in the bar.
And you have a sponsor that you
And
can
I have
call?
a sponsor I can call, who's available.
And a lot of numbers.
And a lot of numbers.
In
And I
case
have-
your sponsor
and I
isn't
have
around.
women, and because I believe that women, for me and my network,
Right.
that foundation, having strong women around me at all times,
Yeah.
that's what's gonna help me on this journey.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand that, right? When I came in, I didn't want female friends. I didn't know what that was. I didn't know how to be one.
Yeah.
Today, that switched for me, and I am a huge advocate on get women in your network that are gonna hold you up, hold you accountable, that are gonna, breathe life into you when you can't,
And someone that's been sober or clean for a while.
doing the work, staying in the middle.
Right.
I say it all the time, right?
Yeah.
Stay in the middle. That's what they told me when I came in. I remember going into one of my first meetings, the afternoon, and the guys would tell me, some old timers, stay in the middle. And I'm like, what does that mean, And now I know I can't have 1 foot here and 1 foot here.
Yeah.
I need to be both feet at all times.
Yeah. You get what you put into it.
Yeah.
You believe that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh,
You're
yeah.
doing all this stuff.
Yeah.
And it's working. I can see it in your face. We all can see it in your face. And you're with Kenny, and you have your son. What's the name again?
Giovanni,
That's Italian.
Italian. He is
Right.
an Italian.
He's all Italian?
He's Italian.
Yeah. And you?
Yeah, I'm Cape Verdean and Puerto Rican.
Oh.
Yeah.
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 So, yeah, he's.
A lot of energy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else keeps you sober?
God.
What? All right. And I
God.
do have to say, because that turns some people off.
Yeah.
They won't come in. I don't want to hear about that. But
It's simple.
there's a lot of different
Universe.
paths.
It could be whatever.
Yeah.
Spiritual, universe, God, goddess.
Yeah.
Something other than yourself. Just know
Right.
that you're not going to do
Right.
it.
For me, in Taoism, they refer to it as the great unknown. And that works
Yeah.
for me. Because I don't know.
Yeah.
And I don't really, well, I'll go by that. Because it's such a tricky, it was for me in AA.
Yeah.
If somebody's preaching to me and you aren't, and you probably know better than to, but I don't want to hear it. I have my path, and AA and NA is made up of so many different types of people: the sinners, the saints, the insane, the people that have been sober for a long time. And could you have done this alone? And I know the answer.
Yeah.
At home, white knuckling
I tried.
it. Yeah.
Tried, right?
How many times you try to?
Twice
But
to come in.
but how many times did you say you were gonna try?
Oh man, I remember, you know, in the beginning, you know, when I really felt like there was a problem, right, and going to my doctor and say, hey, I'm an alcoholic. Like
How many?
none, done.
2 minutes.
That's
Yeah,
it.
we're done. Okay, we'll wrap it up.
That's it.
Maybe you come back one
Yeah.
day, and man, it's been great.
Thank you.
So
I
your
appreciate
show number 21 and 22.
22.
Congratulations.
Thank
It
you.
was great. Very easy to talk to.
Thank you.
Wrap
And
it.
that's it.